WLW.com. This is Doc Thompson On Demand.
I had managed to avoid talking about it for about 2.5 years. Oh, it'd come up here and there, casually off the air with people. And I still managed to avoid talking about it. On the air, boy, it just hasn't come up in any lengthy discussion. Maybe a couple of fleeting comments from callers, and then I moved on. I have managed to talk about the president's birth certificate for 2.5 years. Yesterday, right about this time, the news started breaking that the president was releasing his birth certificate. And of course, that was a huge news story. Not a huge news story because you may believe that the president is not eligible to be president. It's a news story because it's become very political. It was dominating the news yesterday. It has possible repercussions on the future election for president and future elections. Donald Trump's possibility of being president, all of these things. So it was a huge news story. Discussed it yesterday, went down the list of possibilities. I thought it was odd that he released it yesterday, not because it's false, it's phony, it's faked. It may be. I accepted it. I accepted it 2.5 years ago. But that's not why it was discussed yesterday. It was discussed yesterday because it's the news story. I question why. What are the political ramifications? Why would he wait to release it? I came up with two possible conclusions. You wait to release it because, or you release it now after waiting to release it because it actually benefited you, somehow distracting people, which has been the case not just with Obama, but with lots of presidents, Republicans and Democrats. That's what these people do. Or he had to because he saw the numbers slipping. Talked to Willie about it yesterday. Willie's been on the front of this as far as having the information and knowledge. He's covered it quite a bit to make sure people really understand the questions behind it. I talked to Willie yesterday off the air about it to make sure I really understood a couple of the smaller pieces that people bring up. And I was ready to put it to rest. I was going to be done with it. I told Kevin yesterday, my producer, yesterday after I got off the air, I'm like, well, hopefully this thing will go away now. We probably don't have to talk about it anymore. And then they had to do it. Then they had to do it. Then the nutcases come out of the woodwork claiming racism. They had to do it. They couldn't just leave well enough alone. I called out the whack jobs yesterday. I called out the guy who claimed that Barack Obama's father is really Bobby Kennedy and his mother is some black woman somewhere. I pointed out the ridiculousness of those things. I let people speculate on some of the questions they have about the birth certificate itself, whether or not it looks legitimate. I didn't go into the details surrounding the people who say that if you download the thing and then right-click on it and you put it in a certain file and you do all of this, whatever, paint shop, photo editor, whatever, you can see the difference. I didn't even get into any of those conspiracy things. We talked about the political ramifications, and I think I was quite honest, open, forthright, when I said, this is politics being played by the president. The reason he has not released it for the last 2.5 years is he got to use the birthers as a foil. He got to use them. He created the straw men out of them. He got to create the boogeyman out of them. He got to use them to say, look at how crazy those people are. That's what politicians do. That's what they do. You've got to have an enemy when you're in politics. You've got to have somebody to blame. Not just Obama, not just Democrats. Republicans do it as well. You vilify somebody from the other side so you can say, I need to get something done, and look at how they're distracting. Look how they're keeping me from doing it. Look how evil, how bad. That's what they do. In extreme cases, people who run groups of people and become dictators take it even farther than that. They vilify people and start executing them. I'm not suggesting that's happening here. But that's the politics that is played. The president has gotten political mileage, and a lot of it, for 2.5 years by being able to say, I was born in the United States, and those people, they're just coming out and distracting and saying I wasn't. He got to use it, and the people that support him ate it up as much as the people who hate him eat it up that he's not eligible to be president. They're both extremists, and I was ready to leave it at that. And then the racial angle comes out. Then people have to jump on it. And they are no better than the people that are absolutely claiming there's no way the president was born here and he's not eligible to be president. And they're no better than the people who are saying, of course he's president, you're just using that. Everybody's using it, including the people claiming race right now. That's what they do. Jesse Jackson. This guy's entire platform is race. He has made a life, and a very comfortable life, out of race. Whether he does good work or not, whether or not you support him, pounding the drum to keep racial issues out there in the forefront, he has made a great living, amassed quite a bit of power and money by playing the race issue. That's all he knows. It's race. Everything is funneled through the filter of race. And he had to do it. Came out yesterday and said the birther movement is part of a larger pattern of rollbacks against civil rights and an attack on the legitimacy of the nation's first African-American president. He claimed that this is the most personal attack on any president ever. On any president ever? Would you say this is the most personal attack? I would say people writing books on how to execute George W. Bush is a pretty big personal attack. You didn't see personal attacks on George W. Bush? Of course. He said any discussion of his birthplace is code word. It calls upon ancient racial fears. This is Jesse Jackson's claim. He says Trump has trumpeted this cause. For him to go down this low is a bit surprising. He is now tapping into code word fears that go far beyond a rational discourse. I'm saying there's a pattern here. It's not just name calling of Barack. We'll win that battle. There is a retreat, a pronounced, documented retreat on civil rights enforcement. This is the most personal attack on any president ever. All about racism. Well, let's be quite honest. It's not about racism. Oh, sure, there are people who believe that he is not the president because they are racist and they don't care one way or the other about anything other than race. But that's also Jesse Jackson. He only cares about race. People want open, honest transparency when it comes to the president and the people that are handling their money and the people that are sending their sons and daughters, wives and husbands, grandchildren off to war. They want transparency. Whether it's Barack Obama or any president's past or president's future, there should be openness. We should know about these people. For people like Jesse Jackson to come out now and play the race card, it is simply for financial and personal gain. That's the reason the president didn't release his birth certificate 2.5 years ago or over the last 2.5 years, because it benefited him politically and financially not to do so. There are people who are benefiting politically and financially from claiming the president is not eligible to be president. I've said I have questions not about the birth certificate, about the rest of his life. But there are people benefiting politically and financially from that. Jesse Jackson is benefiting politically and financially from claiming it's about race. But for you people out there that support Jesse Jackson and believe it, I want you to look in the mirror today. Look in the mirror, because you are the racist. If this crosses your mind, unless you hear people say he is not president because he is black, and it crosses your mind that this is about race, then you are the one that is a racist. You are the one who sees race. I mentioned that, I think it was, who's that guy who calls in? The Glenn? Whatever his name is. It's all about race with people like that. Everything they see is filtered through the lens of race. And yet he has the gall, like Jesse Jackson, to point that somebody else is racist when that's all you see, benefiting financially and politically. Get to some of your calls coming up. 513-749-7800, the big one, and pound 700 on AT&T. You can take a look at that birth certificate yourself. If you haven't seen it by now, it's 700WLW.com. It's Doc Thompson on the big one, 700WLW. Fox 19 Storm Tracker forecast from meteorologist Katie Morgan. You got mostly cloudy skies this afternoon, high around 60. Light showers tonight, overnight low around 43. And then clearing up, and finally some sunshine tomorrow. It's going to be pretty nice. A little cool at the high around 64. Currently, it's 46 at 700 WLW. So it's okay if you're violent as long as you're not a racist. If I recall, Jesse Jackson threatened to cut off the president's testicles. Didn't he threaten to do that? So it's okay to threaten violence against the president, to say you're going to cut off his testicles, as long as you're not racist about it. That seems a little hypocritical. Going to claim race. Maybe Jesse's was based on race, but he threatened to cut off the president's testicles. Racism and the trumped-up claims of racism have been used by people like Jesse Jackson and a lot of other groups and organizations. I contend even the NAACP and all these different groups simply now for power and money, and that's been going on for a long time. And unfortunately, because of our politically correct world, people fall for it. They get sucked into it. But let's call it for what it is. It's racism. If you're segregating people, if you're doing it for political or financial gain, you're noticing their race, you're basing special programs around race, that's racist. Sorry, it is. Cincinnati Public Schools is no stranger to being racist. Oh, my golly, the Cincinnati Public Schools, they are as racist as you get. Story after story comes out, month after month, about nutty things that they're doing, proposing, suggesting, ways they're teaching, all of these things that are racist. But it's okay because it's racist against white kids. They're at it again. They have launched today a special program. It's going to launch today. Cincinnati Public Schools, they formed a task force to make sure that African-American kids go to school, go to college. They appointed a 13-member task force to launch a pilot African-American male initiative. It kicks off today to improve, this is their goal, to improve the success rate of black male students. Boy, that sounds good, doesn't it? Why wouldn't you want to improve students, so they graduate more, learn more? Sure. Why is it black male students? Why not all students? Shouldn't a school district be concerned with all of the students? So it sounds nice that they're targeting certain kids to help them out a little bit. Why would a school system say they don't care about the other 30%? Well, about 70% of the Cincinnati public schools are black. So the other 30% is not black. So right off, they're saying, you 30% that are a minority, we don't care about you. You're a minority in our school, and we don't care about you. It's even worse. They don't even care about the African-American girls. So I'd imagine that's about 50-50%, right? It's about 50-50. So they're saying they only care about 35% of their students. It's the African-American Male Task Force, and they're launching 9 more young men's clubs at elementary schools, high schools to help students with character development, grades, graduation, and also getting into college. Here's one of the outrageous things. Theo Marks, who runs a similar program at Aiken School. He said, we have to serve our demographic. We have to serve our demographic. I guess meaning that 70% of the kids are black, so we have to care about the black students? What would Theo Marx say if somebody came out and said, well, the United States has to serve its demographics, and African Americans make up less than 15% in America? There are less than 15% blacks in America. We're just serving our demographics. There would be outrage. How dare you? You've got to be concerned about the minority students, the minority people, the people who are being kept down by the majority. But in this case, it's okay. They're serving their demographics. That's Cincinnati Public Schools. Happens every day, but it's fine because of the great double standard. The great double standard that exists. And we've allowed this BS to just become accepted all across the country for decades now. The double standard. It's fine if it's some people. It's not fine if it's other people. Governor Kasich is looking to give minority businesses a larger share of state work. He's looking to expand minority businesses. How is that acceptable? I thought we're supposed to serve our demographic. If there are fewer minorities, well, we're serving the demographic. We're going with the majority, right? Well, not quite, because there is a double standard. The racists are the people who notice it. The people who always come out and bang that drum. Instead of saying, you go your way, I'll go mine. In Oakley, Too Sweet, you're on the big one.
Hey, Doc, I can tell you, if you listen to urban radio, anytime you criticize President Barack, if you're black, you're a hater, you're jealous of him. But if you're white, you're a racist. And you're right. Glenn is one of the primary ones who says that.
It's unbelievable to me. You know what's funny, Too Sweet? About a year ago, I was listening to an urban radio station, and they had some comedians on, and they were doing this whole bit about it should be called the Black House, not the White House.
Yep.
And doing this whole shtick and playing all these stereotypes of what would be happening in the White House. He'd been president for over a year, and they were doing all these stereotypes of what was going to be going on at the White House because of the, him being black and the black culture and whatever. And I was thinking, I couldn't go anywhere near that. If I joked like that, I'd be done. My career would be over.
Absolutely. But Glenn could further expound on that, I'm sure.
Too Sweet, I hope you realize I am not a racist because I hate his white half too. Just so you know. I hate the president.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Too Sweet. Appreciate the call. I hate his white half as much as I hate his black half. It has nothing to do with his skin color. It has to do with his political ideology and the things that he is doing that is wrong for America. It's Doc Thompson on the big one, 700 WL.